and gentlemen, please welcome
And you know what time it is. Every Tuesday night at 8, another exciting edition of the MCW Cast. You already know who I am, Legacy MCW MC, Larry Legend.
And I am, we're going to go to you? You go for it, man.
Let me tell you something, Brian. Don't lack the courage of your convictions. You were about to take the stage.
I was.
And I say that you should take it, and go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Then what Brian is going to do is going to introduce himself as Deacon Storm, one of the lead play-by-play announcers here. And I'm going to look at you, bud.
Then we got John Rollins, one of the members of the production team here.
Hey.
And last but certainly not least.
And I'm Tara.
Yeah.
Hi, Tara.
Save the best for last, my mama used to always say.
Today we're saving the burnt for last. So I got a little sunburn.
You're about to you match the hue of the table here.
Actually, she does. Better than I do, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I had a little trip to the beach and lost track of time in the sun. So, yes.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things that melanin, it works in our favor, Deacon. We can stay out in the sun and we won't burn as easily. We will burn, but not as easily.
Yeah, I had my first sunburn 2019 Labor Day. It was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. So, yeah, thank God for this burn.
So my sunburn will go away by, like, tomorrow. Like, maybe not tomorrow, maybe Friday.
Will it peel?
No, I don't usually peel.
Okay.
It's all in the moisturization.
Oh.
You need to keep your skin hydrated, and it employs some aloe with a little bit of lidocaine in it to take the sting out of a sunburn. And then you need to put some vitamin E on top of that to really soak into your skin. So, yes, hydration.
Well, I know you know the recipe, doctor.
Skin hydration. I'm kind of terrible at actual body hydration, so.
Well, it's all good news and good information to share. And for those of you who don't know, John Rollins, who's joining us this week on the cast for now, is really the nucleus of our behind-the-scenes videography for anything that is MCW. A lot of the commercials that you see right here on the MCW cast that are narrated by our very own Danny Mays, and the production that goes into just everything under the sun, the road back, all of our production, and including everything that we do. John, you're really the nucleus, the brain of all of that.
Just pretty much anything that we have that goes up on social media. That's pretty much my bag. Just trying to get all kinds of content out for MCW.
That's right.
Which I will say, I actually inherited from Deacon Storm.
Yeah,
I will give that to you.
Yeah, about 2 years, but 2 years back, it was me that was doing all that, and it was a job that it's not thankless, but man, I don't miss it. I don't. So thank you for doing that. Thank you so much.
So you can catch some of John's work, of course, on our YouTube channel and our social media handles and all of that stuff, all of our videos that go up there. And I want to talk about our Flashback Friday episode that you can check out this week as well, featuring Leo Rush and Jeff Cobb, and that's from Slamboree 2017. So check that out along with The Road Back. We've got our breakthrough episodes up there. We're back to our live touring schedule again. Ooh. So, follow us on YouTube so you can stay up to date with all the action and matches that you might have missed if you're not attending our live events.
All right, you heard her.
All right.
John.
Yeah, and you know something, Deacon, a lot of the times as we start these casts off, we thank our coffee club members for supporting, and we also encourage our fans to like and share the cast as it's going on live. And then also we run down all of the different mini platforms that you can catch and subscribe to the MCW cast. So for the very first time, do you want to run it down for the folks?
I'm going to handle this one, man.
I believe in you.
But I got the script though, so I'm still going to read it. So please join us on all of our major podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, and CastBox. So make sure you give us a follow, a like, a share,
and subscribe.
That was the last word I was going to say. But thank you, Larry. Appreciate it.
And you can check out our last week's episode with the former MCW Women's Champion, Amber Rodriguez. We had her in studio. She was here visiting and we brought her in studio, so you can check that out on those platforms.
Great conversation, too.
Hashtag Black Wall Street for the win. Let's get that in the social media coordinators' wheelhouse there, because Black Wall Street is specifically guests that the fans, our MCW faithful, clamored for at the onset of the MCW Cast. They wanted to hear from all of the members, and we got a lot of them notched in our belt for former guests here on the MCW Cast. So hashtag Black Wall Street.
Love it. So
yeah, interesting conversation with Amber though last week. I love hearing from the journey. Again, with me being all around the place, a lot of the times there are blanks. I remember when she started, I saw her in New York, but finding out about her journey and how it led her away from the ring for personal reasons, and now it's kind of taken her back to the ring. Was really insightful for me.
Yeah, and she couldn't come back at a better time because women's wrestling is hot now.
Yes, indeed it is.
I mean, it's hot in a good way, it's not hot in like the early 2000s way. It's hot in the, women are valued for what they bring to the ring and bring to the show. And, she couldn't be coming back at a better time. So I'm excited for her. I can't wait to see what she does.
You know what, Tara? One of the things that I really liked was we got really personal with her, and something I haven't known. I've known Chuck Lennox for years. Did not know that was her brother. That.
Wow.
That was one of the things.
So
I was
how well did you know him, really?
I mean, I guess trying to get a sentence out of the guy, first of all, that's one. But I actually discussed that with him a couple of days ago. I was like, hold on for a second, man. Is this for real, man? And he was like, yeah. And Drogs was sitting next to him, like, yeah. And I thought they were gonna beat me up, so I got up out of there for asking too many questions there. So it was a good conversation.
I think that's an episode in itself. We just bring Deacon Storm in here and let Black Wall Street beat him up. I mean,
That
can we book that?
That sounds let
me get the agenda.
Sounds like a custom.
And to me, it sounds like middle school. So I totally.
You were picked on too, huh?
Yeah, of course.
That's all good. Yeah. Well, we're just going to keep the ball rolling, as it were, with our MCW Cast coming to you weekly, Tuesdays at 8. And we got a hell of a guest on deck tonight.
That's right. Speaking of picking on the little people.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, to him, everybody's the little people, and I get it.
Well, when you are the king, you can kind of act like that.
That's right.
That's right.
You bow down.
We've got former Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup winning tag team champion, heavyweight champ. Well, MCW champion,
heavyweight champion, Shamrock Cup champion, tag team champion, Cruiserweight champion, and Rage Television.
The last Cruiserweight champion, if I remember correctly.
The last one.
King Ryan McBride is with us in the studio. Let's listen to Danny Mays run it down here with the station identification, and we'll be right back with Ryan McBride, the King.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
And we are back with the MCW Cast. John Rollins with Larry, Tara, Deacon,
Scooter. Hit the bricks.
Uh-oh.
Hit the bricks.
and the King.
Peace out.
Thanks for keeping my seat warm.
King actually asked him to do that so your seat would be warm, not so he can talk.
Well, first of all, it's a throne when the King is sitting in it, okay?
You are right.
All
I am
right.
so sorry.
When
Please
John
don't
Rollins is there, it's only a seat, okay? So right now,
Larry.
ascending to the throne, without any further ado, King Ryan McBride. Welcome to the MCW Cast.
Oh, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've seen you live and in person. You know, things are returning more to some sense of normal. So, you know, we're glad to have you here in studio joining us.
Yeah, I'm glad things are getting back to normal. Can't wait to be in front of a crowd of people again.
Mhm.
Can't wait.
Yeah, one of our guests, our featured guest on MCW The Road Back with Nicole and Kim, was the King. And I remember on that particular episode, you really didn't give the ladies too much. You kind of had them bow gracefully and just took your leave of those trumpets, strumpets, if you will.
Broads, as I called them.
Indeed, yeah. But hopefully we can get a little bit more juice out of you here on the MCW Cast this week.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get right into it. As we like to, kind of get things rolling. We've introduced you. We want to hear a little bit about your background. I remember first seeing you inside the cage back at the North Point Flea Market, the first resurrection. Eventually, different guys have the yellow shirt on, the security shirt on. And I remember seeing this young, kind of really structured jawline, military cut kid. And I was like, who's this guy? I hope he comes back. I hope he's our security from now on for personal reasons. And, but
awesome.
that was all like what, 2005?
2006.
2006, okay.
Right,
Yeah.
2006.
So a lot of people remember me from then, but my start in wrestling goes before that. So back in the late 90s when Austin was coming up, me and my dad went to, and not a lot of people know this about me at all. So I'm about to tell you all something that very few people know.
Ooh,
please.
Okay, here we go.
Give it to us.
So the Ravens were still playing at Memorial Stadium. So
Wow.
me and my dad went. They
Right.
were playing the Eagles.
Oh, wow.
So WWF had a show at the Baltimore Arena. So I made my father leave the Ravens game. I think it was like the middle of the second quarter, so we could make it to the Baltimore Arena in time to go to this show. And walking up to the door, I got handed a flyer about a wrestling school in Owings Mills, and it was for BCWF in Owings Mills.
I
And
remember
This
BCW.
was 98.
Yeah.
So after talking my father into it, every Tuesday and Thursday for the summer of 98, like, that's what I did. Went up there, learned how to learn, or I wouldn't say learn how to wrestle, learn how to bump.
Okay.
And then pretty much got the kicked out of me
Now, what
every
kind of
Tuesday and Thursday.
facility was this that you were
So,
going to?
It was a little warehouse off Reisterstown Road. Otto Stark was the trainer. I think a couple guys from MEWF were there.
Yeah.
And I went by the name Ryan Dangerous.
Okay. All right.
Really thought about using that name when I got back into it, and then but I got it. So I did it for the summer of 98, a little bit into 99. I think we had four or five shows, and then really got interested in girls. Got a serious girlfriend.
Yeah.
Got away from it. Then fast forward, EWA has the Pain Factory over off Back River Never Road. So a couple friends of mine had been going up. They had tried talking me into going a handful of times, and I was like, no, not really interested. Like, huge wrestling fan, but didn't really seem interested to do it.
Yeah.
So then I go up. They finally talked me into going up there, and I go through the trainer, and Diaz was there. I think he was the one that actually put me through my tryout, which was the bumps and all that stuff.
Wow.
Cracked off a back bump, and then as soon as I hit, it like all came back to me.
Boom.
And then hooked ever since. That was March 2006.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
And then, how did you get to MCW from
Yeah,
there?
that's what I.
So
keep going.
then MCW had just started when I started
Came back.
training.
Yeah, that was
So-
our first resurrection, right?
Right.
Yes, it was North Point Flea Market.
Mhm.
So
I
then guy by the name of Joe Hamilton
We know Joe Hamilton.
Joe.
said
Yep.
he was like, you don't want to stay at EWA. You want to be at MCW. So I got over there doing the street team. Like, I met Dan, told me where to go. I just started doing curtains with Dean and Zach. And then just kind of latched on to whoever, did whatever needed to be done. And then eventually made our way inside the cage. And then I think September 9th, 2007. So it had been over a year of like busted my ass on the street team, flying, going to shows, setting up, tearing down, all them late nights. Finally got a shot.
But at that time, we didn't have a school though. That
No, we
second
did
round.
not.
So where were you? Were you still training over with the EWA guys?
Yep.
Ah,
Okay.
okay.
The relationship was at the start was kind of rocky, but then it got kind of smooth to where you can bounce back and forth, and then
There were some cross promotional angles and things like that, and
like
I
but
was involved in some of them.
and like before I knew, and this is when you guys were going to Fort Meade, and they were having all the you had no rules on Fort Meade.
Fort
You
Meade
can do
Championship
blood,
Wrestling,
you can do
yeah.
whatever.
Fire.
And I remember Dan and Adam Flash were trying to plan a finish for their match. So me and Teddy were the only ones at the school. It's like 10 o'clock at night.
This is Teddy Stigma
Teddy
for our listeners. Yeah,
Teddy
Teddy
Stigma.
Stigma.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we got to keep running this spot because we had just learned something. And I'm like, we got to keep doing this. We got to keep doing this. And we kept like running this spot where they were walking around getting ideas. And I remember Dan coming up to me going, it's not about the moves. And like it really didn't register what he meant by that. Because like when I first got in, it was all about cool spots.
Yeah.
Cool spots here, cool spots there. That's what's going to get me noticed. Unfortunately, it took me blowing my knee out to realize it's not about cool spots.
Right.
Yeah, it's really about those moments. I think in particular when you're talking about Dan and Adam Flash, the moment that I'll never, get out of my mind was I think the finish was Flash powerbomb Dan through a flaming table. So I don't remember one move in that match. I think they beat each other with belts and tacks and all of that. But that moment I'll never not forget. Kind of like you might not remember anything from Hell in the Cell, Undertaker, Mankind, but you certainly remember that moment of him doing that big flying thing. So yeah, it's not about the moves, and that's an amazing story.
Still, even over 20 years later, that spot of him getting thrown off that cell is unreal.
Yeah, that Andre slamming Hogan, or Hogan slamming Andre rather, those moments. And we've had quite a few here at MCW. So you mentioned you were at a Ravens game in Memorial Stadium, and it's 98. Austin is hot as fire. Rock, Mankind, all those people we all latched onto around that time. But what got you into wrestling though? So were you into wrestling before that, or did you get swept up in that sort of 98, 97 Attitude Era?
So a couple of friends of mine were like really, really into it, and it just like I'm a big NASCAR fan. Like that's my first love. I go to races all the time, and just really didn't think wrestling was all that. And then sometime in '96, I started watching. No, sorry, the end of '95, I started watching, and then the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels build going into WrestleMania.
Yeah,
like that's what really hooked me. I mean, you see Bret Hart running the hills in Calgary, and you see Shawn Michaels with Jose Lothario training. Like the huge build.
That's the match going into WrestleMania 12, right?
Yeah, and the Iron Man match, and just how larger than life they were.
Yeah.
And that's what got me.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that distinctly. That's funny because that's around the time that I got hooked as well, believe it or not. And you and I kind of go back, many years around the same time. We both really got our engines running. So if you're listening, shout out to Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and all of the maestros who made that video package, because not knowing you were hooking to future participants that have had, quite careers. I'd say so myself. We've both done a couple things, and
I've done way more than I ever thought. Like I would have just been happy curtain jerking an MCW show, and you could have been like, okay, you suck, see you later. I got what I got what I wanted. And
you know what I find so interesting is when we have our guests on here, and they seems like they all can remember this definitive match that they were watching that like did it for them. And I'm so jealous because I have none of these memories. Like I think it's just because I have a bad memory, but like I just have like this overall positive experience from my childhood of watching wrestling and like that adrenaline and that rush and like hearing the crowd and shouting at my TV. Like I don't remember any specific matches really. I just remember like loving it. You know what I mean? So like I'm jealous that you all have these like memories etched in your mind because I just
mine is Brett knowing at WrestleMania 10. So
see,
that's
I like
that's a good one too.
Yeah.
that one didn't really hook me. But you know what I think also is goes hand in hand. with the experience of family, which I know you've said is a big
Right.
part of what you remember about it. It's actually when you go to the live events and you feel the
Yeah.
energy of the people around you that
Oh,
love
yeah.
it as much as you do.
Right.
It becomes almost like a church-like thing, you know? It's like,
And like we were sitting in that middle deck, and they were like this big.
yeah.
And the reason we went was to see Stone Cold. And I think Mankind had a dumpster match with somebody. I forget who he was with. But the only thing that Austin did was come in and stun the guy and throw him in the dumpster. That is all he did on that show, and it was worth it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Moments.
See, now, I
Moments.
can remember things from live events, but I don't remember like anything definitive from TV.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know. It's just that it blurs together, and you know, I'm lucky I can remember shows that I've been on, let alone things that I watched when I was 7. So
Yeah, I couldn't
don't
tell you
know.
a lot of things from recent wrestling. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. It's so hard to watch nowadays. Like,
Yeah.
it's nothing like it used to be.
Nothing like it used to
Nothing.
be. I'm going to
So
repeat
do
that.
you watch like the pay-per-views? Is there a brand that you have an affinity for over another one?
I really don't. It's all so hard to watch. You got WWE who's trying to cram 6 months worth of storyline in 3 weeks.
Right.
And then by the time you catch on, it's changing.
Mhm.
And then you have AEW, God bless them, they're doing everything under the sun every match. So it's kind of hard to, it's like, what are you going to do next?
It's overload.
Right.
Yeah. You know what? At this point, because I watch now a lot more because we've got the cast, you know, and we're going to be talking about topics. But for me, Ryan, I will watch my friends. Like if Joe is on NXT, I'm gonna watch his match. You know, Sammy just fought Kenny Omega. You know, and not to say that I'm like close friends with all these people, but the guys that came up with me and have, you know, Richie, former Impact champion, I watch them, glimpses of them when I get an opportunity to. But to sit through it, like when we were, like me taping it, like, I used to
I
tape
still
it.
have
Oh yeah.
boxes
I
of
still have a
tapes.
bunch of
I
VHS
got
too.
boxes of them.
That's how impactful it was back then. Was that
Right.
we had to capture it on VHS, knowing that those tapes would eventually diminish in quality and be eaten away by mold or whatever.
Right.
Just so that we could relive the moments over and over again. And you know, now it's just like at your fingertips. It's on the Peacock and every, you know.
Just type it
and
in
not
Google.
only that, you don't have to watch a whole show or even a whole match anymore because you've got, you know, the little YouTube mini clips and stuff. So, you know, I mean, I'll watch some of that. Like if somebody says, oh, this was a great match or whatever, I'll go, you know, if I have time, I'll go track it down and watch that. But I don't even think I'm watching a whole match. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
can just watch the gist of it and get an idea and be like, oh, okay. So it's not that it doesn't have that draw and that sucking in power that it used to have.
Yeah, the clips on social media are much easier to watch, but you can see how much they're edited
Oh,
down
yeah.
before they're even put on
yeah.
it. It's like
Right.
you know that's not how it really
Right,
happened.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And that kills it too.
Yeah, it
Like,
does. It
it's-
does take a lot away from it because you know they're like, well, we didn't like this, so that means you won't like it. And then they put the product out, and it's like, well,
Man, we sound really old right now.
I
don't
know
we?
it's so bad.
Well, I mean, that's
Back in my day.
Yeah, well, remember we used to have people that would be saying that to us when we would be talking about Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and now we are those people.
there's no doubt that wrestling styles have changed.
Absolutely,
You know,
yeah.
you can look back over the last 50 years or 60 years, and you know, you know that it's changed. Just the way, you know, the matches are put together, the way, you know, you're doing it for TV or interacting with the crowd or whatever. I mean, it's just it's a much different product.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know if, you know, I was a kid today, if I would be as glued to the TV as I was. I mean, and also there's so many other distractions and
things,
everything
yeah.
too. Like, I don't know that it would have had the power, that it would have the power over me today that it did when I was, you know, 7 years old and there were 3 channels on the TV.
That's a great call out.
You know?
You know?
Yeah, I
very true.
like I want my son to be interested in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I don't know
There's no Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart.
that I can
build.
sit. Yeah, there's nobody that stands out. It's like, hey, that's who you watch.
Yeah.
So, like our kids, they, not our kids, but, you know, my kids.
Yeah. What a bombshell, right?
Whoa! We really found out some.
Yeah, I know.
So like my kids, you know, they've of course grown up around wrestling, and when they were little, they liked TNA, and they would watch Ring of Honor sometimes, but they liked TNA, and they really couldn't care less about the WWE product. So, like, their first live events, of course, were MCW. I mean,
Of course.
you know, you were working security, and I'm like got a baby strapped to my back, and they're playing in a pack and play in the back, you know. So, they grew up around it, but they didn't care for the televised product. Not in the way that, like, I feel like all of us kind of like latched onto, you know what I mean? Where it was like something powerful and impactful. Like, they couldn't care less.
Like,
I mean,
I had to be in front of the TV Monday night.
oh my
Oh,
God,
absolutely.
absolutely. Saturday
Yeah.
mornings, you know, yeah, for sure.
We
Night,
weren't
Saturday
Watching that
nights.
live wire.
Yeah, I mean, it had a power. Like, you know, you made your schedule around that.
Pretty
you
much,
know?
yeah, 100%. You know,
You did.
I remember my first job working at a restaurant as a dishwasher, and like one of my scheduled days was Monday, and I was scheduled till 9, so I did everything I could. Like, I was out hustling people to leave so I could get the dishes washed and put away so I could get home.
yeah, that's like,
That is, oh my, go
like
ahead.
Joe, you gonna say Johnny Mininakas?
No, I was going to say that's a funny story because I was working in a restaurant as well, and my shift was Sunday doubles, and pay-per-views were on Sundays. And I also had the misfortune of working also Mondays as well, most Mondays. And so I went to my boss and said, hey, why don't we start showing wrestling on the TVs? And so we would do the pay-per-views, and then we would do Monday Night Wars, and we would host them. It was at Pedonia Station. It was great because no longer did I have to choose. Was I going to watch wrestling or was I going to go to work? And it wound up being the thing that was my catalyst for actually getting me involved with wrestling, because my manager was high school buddies with Kevin Dunn. So that was like my in as well. But yeah, I did that because it was like, man, I can't, you know, get home and watch this because I have to work. And the Sunday doubles killed me. So I just said, well, let's have wrestling at work.
Well, I mean, there were a lot. Like for me, I was like teenage-ish in the 90s. So for me, it was more like you guys had
What do
restaurant.
you mean teenage?
Teenage-ish?
You either were or you weren't.
I turned 14 in 96. That's okay. So you see what I'm saying? So like for me, it was flipping back and forth trying to hear the commentary through the static because I wasn't getting the pay-per-views. My parents were like, no, the pay-per-views too expensive.
You didn't
so
have the black box with the button.
oh,
You had to
I
keep
did not.
flicking
So
in the back.
like I would get what was going on in 6-second increments whenever the channel decided, like, whoa, what's guys?
But at the end of the day, you cared that much to go through
absolutely.
that
And
just to like
definitely-
listen.
And I definitely was like glued on Monday.
Yeah,
100%.
But not any. I don't feel it's that way anymore.
No.
I mean, I'm sure that, I don't know, maybe it is because we're not kids. You know, I mean, maybe if we had this conversation, we need to bring in some 10-year-old guests. Let's bring in the RKW kids.
Like, how
and
do
see
you
what
steal
they say.
wrestling pay-per-views?
I would have owned a car much sooner if it weren't for wrestling pay-per-views, because like I was buying every one of them. ECW, WCW, WWE.
Oh, yeah.
That's like that's like 100. That's like
Definitely.
180 a month on that.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Oh,
See, that
definitely.
was another advantage to getting my work to show the pay-per-views. I no longer had to, you know,
Okay,
gather
yeah.
together with my buddies and be like, who's buying the pay-per-view?
There wasn't a
So-
TV to be found in that restaurant.
Oh,
Yeah.
one of
Wow.
those kind of places.
That is unfortunate. Well,
All right.
so
Yeah,
you know,
segue.
you went through, you know, you were a fan, you know, started on the street crew and everything. Like, did you ever see yourself like being the person that people would pay tickets to see, whether to cheer or to boo?
No.
No?
Not at all. Like I said earlier, I was just happy. Let me open the show. And if that was it, that was it. That was the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like all this other stuff that has come along with it is a huge bonus. Huge bonus.
And when did that happen? When did you first get on MCW shows? From when you first started helping out with the street
So
team?
it was like April or May of 2006 we started helping. Whatever the second show back was when I started
Wow.
helping.
All right.
Second
Okay.
show back, and then it was September 2007.
oh, so by almost a year of busting.
It was me and Teddy against Judas Young and Champ Champagne. Or Judas Priest.
Judas Priest and Champ
Oh
Champagne.
my God,
that
I
must have been
remember. I
at
remember
the
that
green
show.
room.
It was
Was
at
that the green
No,
room?
No,
that
it was
was
at the
at
flea
North
market.
Point. That
It
was
was
North
at North
Point.
Point, right next door to the green room. I
And-
remember.
Finish with
I remember.
finish of the match with the worst second rope moonsault. Like I almost missed him. Like I caught him with my shoulders and arms. That's it.
But you finished.
Terrible. Never do it.
Wow.
Never
Well,
do it again.
oh my. So after 2007, you actually went on to do a lot of things for some other companies, and we're gonna take a break for a minute, and when we come back, we're gonna hear about how really you went into this like you know, kind of what they call it, the sunset stage, or I don't know, whatever. But you went into like your goal into
When the Phoenix rises.
Thank you.
Yeah, is that where you were going? Where the Phoenix
I don't
rises?
know. Give me some kind of analogy. But you went on to have a lot of successes, not just in MCW, but other companies. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to hear a little bit more about that part of your journey. So stay with us.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the MCW Cast. I am Deacon Storm alongside Larry Legend, Tara, and our wonderful guest, His Majesty himself, the King, Ryan McBride. So we were just leaving off talking about, you know, your beginnings in MCW. So what was it like when you started to like realize you got that traction, you started getting your footing even outside of MCW in your career? Like when did that happen? When did you figure that out?
So I primarily wanted to stay around here. Like branching out was cool and everything. Like since November 2006, I got a shot at CZW.
Okay.
Didn't have no business being on that show. Had no business being at CZW at that time.
How'd you get that shot?
It was the Maven Bentley show.
Okay.
Is actually what got me that shot. Just by doing a standing shooting star press in front of 30 people. And that's when John sent somebody down to get me and said, "Hey, kid, can you work?" And I said, "Yeah," just because you want the opportunity.
You never say
no.
no.
You never say no. And then I was on the next show in November. It was Night of Infamy.
And when he says John, he's speaking of the great icon of ultraviolence, John Zandig, at one point Hefe of CZW. So yeah, I remember I was there already when you came on up, but I always wanted to know how that invitation was extended to you. Like, so I was doing the MBA shows, the Maven Bentley Association charity free shows done at the 2300 Arena for charitable cause, pay what you can, and also a great proving ground and opportunity for you to get a look at and get into CZW.
Yep. Also, shout out to Maven Bentley. I know he's out there. So
yeah, he is.
He's out there.
He's doing things in politics now. He's trying to make an impact into the Philadelphia school system and underprivileged youths. And I don't know if he's running for mayor, but that seems like that might be the pathway out of being a wrestling promoter and into politics, so you actually can, be worth a damn.
Yeah.
Because they ain't gonna get too far dealing with the shady characters in pro wrestling. And Maven's seen a lot of them.
Maven's a good guy. He was always good to me.
Yeah. All right, so CZW, you got up there, and at the same time, you were kind of doing MCW and CZW at the same time.
So we weren't running shows super regularly in 2006. Yeah, I mean, we did the Shamrock, we did like the Resurrection, we were doing had we just started doing Body Slam Autism ones yet?
No,
I don't even think we'd started. That was later.
That was
so
later.
we were just, it was sporadic. So yeah, that was, we were not doing the regular shows that we're doing.
So, like
now.
I was working EWA shows, other shindy feds around ACPW, Philly, some of the little small stuff, but like where I really felt like I was getting traction was when they had me and Teddy going after the tag titles in MCW, and we kept losing and we kept losing, and it was after like the third time when the crowd started booing that we were so close. I'm like, okay, we might have something here,
Right.
Yeah.
and to this day, when I grabbed so we had the 2 ladder matches with Ghetto Mafia, and when we finally got the belts, it was December of that year. In the second ladder match, finish was me and Keenan are up there. First belt falls, so it's only the second belt up there, and the eruption from the first belt, like I got goosebumps, like I'm getting them now thinking about the pop in the green room. And then me and Keenan grabbed a belt and fell, and he fell, and we landed to where he landed on top of me, and nobody knew who had the belt. It was between us. And then when they rolled him off and the belt was in my hand and my hand went up, holy shit. Like, awesome. And then just I remember being told when I was winning the Shamrock Cup in 2009, that was like still mind blowing.
Well, and that was coming off of you were having a great 2008. I mean, you had this in CZW, you had the Cage of Death match. It was billed by many as the best match of the night. You won the World Junior Heavyweight Championship there. You were really on a streak. And that was what I was trying to get out of my mouth before we went to break. That, right around like 2008, I mean, eyes were on you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what year you started being mentioned in PWI 500. I think it was maybe 2010, maybe something around there.
My first year was 2008.
Okay, so in this area, So this is eyes are on Ryan McBride.
It was like third runner-up, rookie of the year. I'll have to find I got the magazines at the house. I'll have to find out. When exactly it was. You
were really, you were getting noticed. You were, working for. CZW, MCW, 1CW, EWA still. You were getting some name recognition. People wanted you on your show, and then obviously, like you said, winning the belt here in MCW. You and Teddy Stigma had really great chemistry. So,
and we were polar opposites too.
Yeah,
completely different from one another.
Yeah, I remember working with you guys at that show that we did at Della Rosa's down in Canton. Remember? That was so much fun.
Was that? Did I end up spanking you at the end of that? Okay,
you both did, I think.
Yeah.
I've been.
Was that the rally in the alley? Was that what it was? The kickoff of the.
That was down on Square.
In Canton.
On the water, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
Those were fun shows.
Okay.
Those were fun
I think
shows.
you actually spanked me more than once.
I remember being so nervous to do that too. So nervous because.
Well, maybe,
so nervous.
In the future of MCW, we'll have some excuse for me to spank you, Deacon.
All right, well, whoa, is that the end of the show?
You could make like a composition, like a compilation video of the amount of times that's happened to me here by different people.
I've been here for 4 years, and I think I've seen it at least 25 times.
So why do you think that has been a staple in wrestling, that a meddlesome female outside person gets spanked? I wonder where that came from.
Do you really want
I mean, I have an
down
answer
this
too.
rabbit hole? Because
I guess maybe we want to
we
keep
should probably leave that one
our
alone.
younger fans entertained and kind of not.
Look at our audience. 18 to 34-year-old males. Can we just leave it at that? Okay.
Some of them ain't seen one since they came out of one. Think about that.
All
right.
Enough said.
Okay.
Right.
A little smut,
But. Yeah, you guys, you're saying you were polar opposites, but together you really you had a good look together. You had a similar style. You complemented each other very well. Tell us a little bit about your run together, how that was.
So Teddy lived on the Eastern Shore, and he was traveling to Essex 3 days a week to train.
Wow.
Where I lived in Pasadena, so. Once we started actually doing shows together, even sometimes we would leave to school on Friday nights, and he would just come to the house and stay with me, sleep on the couch downstairs, and then we would go do the shows or even go to the school and train or what have you. We just got paired because we just happened to be the two standouts. And they just put us together, and I remember we would do memory drills, and we would start with 3 things, and we were up to sometimes 40, 45 things we had to remember.
Wow.
And if you didn't have to remember, we were running laps, we were chopping each other, whatever the case was.
Wow.
I never made it past 8.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So some of the matches I've been involved in, there's been a lot of stuff and a lot of moving parts you've had to remember. And those memory drills came in. Ask me to do that today. That's a whole different story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I always wondered, Ryan, because you and I both are unique in the fact that we saw each other in Philly for a lot of CZW shows, and then we would see each other in Maryland. Why was Teddy never with you? Why did that opportunity for him to get into CZW? Because I remember the screeches from the girls eventually. You guys used to get kind of that Hardy Boys kind of love from our young female fans. And I thought, just like Tara said, the chemistry between you was as such that I thought it was almost a perfect fit for him to come up and do something with you in CZW.
The offer was there. I just don't think it was his thing. like, and I don't want to speak for him,
Right.
but I tried to get him to go with me to CZW a couple times. Like, we can get into a great story of when coming home from, I think, the first Cage of Death of 2006. Real quick, we're going on a rabbit hole here. So we both leave. I get home, bed, all that, wake up. He calls me and says, "Hey, I need you to come over." I'm like, what for? So then he lived up in an apartment in Glen Burnie, and I get up there, and he drove this old Dodge K car. And he said, "I just need a little estimate on body work." Because, like, I work at the time, I mean, I still do work at a car auction, but I work writing condition reports at the time during the day. So I get there, and both sides of this car look like they've been through a demolition derby.
Oh no.
So this fool fell asleep at the wheel.
Oh, no.
Guardrail one side.
Oh no.
Wake up. Guardrail the other
Oh,
side.
no.
And then eventually got smart and just pulled over on the side of the road and fell asleep. Well, he tells me he's then woken up by a bunch of cops because he's sleeping in the backseat of the car.
Oh no.
And so then he eventually gets home, and I'm looking at him like, "Why didn't you call me
Wow.
or something? Like, you could be dead right now."
Wow. So
Yeah.
maybe that was a blessing in disguise that Teddy didn't
My
want to make those
goodness.
trips
Yeah.
up to CZW.
Wow.
But that was always something that I wondered because, again, being around you and seeing the peak, you guys peaking as a team in MCW, and seeing you also kind of get a little bit of that love and accolades in CZW. I always wondered why Teddy never joined you, or
The talent was definitely there.
Yeah.
Like, it was definitely there. Like, and I wish we could have had some runs because I feel like we could have done a lot more for sure.
And eventually you split with Teddy in MCW,
Yeah.
and you were on your way, and he went on down to Florida, sort of kind of going after the FCW aspirations before it was even the Performance Center and everything else. It was FCW. So Teddy relocated down there and tried his hand at that before it even became anything.
And the best, funniest, whatever you want to call it, part of that whole thing is because we got suspended earlier in 2008, or was it 2009, sorry. We got suspended for 3 months. So we came back. We had the opening match against Team Action at Shamrock Cup, which everybody thought one of us was going to the finals right from there. And then when we lost, air sucked out of the building. So then just completely sucked out of the building. So then we kind of started, like, the way we were looking at each other, we started to turn there. And we had the Derrick Frazier memorial match or not memorial match, whatever they called it at the time. He couldn't work because of his knee.
The farewell.
Farewell.
Yeah.
So me and him go. I go over on him. He then gets upset, hits me with the chair, which to this day is the worst concussion I've ever had.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember the Shamrock Cup Finals. Don't remember them at all. So that happens, and I remember when we started feuding, and then the loser leaves town match that happened at EWA, like, everybody thought for sure I was the one going to Florida. Like, everybody thought it was me, and then I wind up winning, and he ended up going.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, shout out Teddy Stigma. I
Yeah.
understand he's still doing his thing down there, and all of us here at MCW gave us a lot of fond memories, and especially a lot of fond ones with our guest tonight on the cast. So shout out Teddy Stigma, and all of you fans out there, if you want to, delve into the deep recesses of the MCW library, you can do that online. We have our own video on demand streaming service. So take a look at some of these matches and times in the North Point Flea Market and the Green Room featuring Ryan McBride and Teddy Stigma.
So, like, if you're not familiar with the North Point Flea Market, for our
bring it up
fans who
quite a
are
bit.
listening, we do. So, but I want to try to paint a visual picture here. So, it's a flea market. It's in Dundalk, Maryland. There's live bait signs hanging. In the back corner, there's live animals in cages. Like, we're talking domesticated animals like bunnies and mice and guinea pigs and birds, and I don't know, sometimes they're squawking and making weird noises. There's like a pile of like used rugs in one corner. There's Gangrel's blood on the ceiling in another. Like,
World War II memorial.
yeah. So it's an interesting
Yeah.
place, and so when we would do the shows, we would put tarps up over everything. So if you go and you're looking at some of these old archival videos, you're going to see these blue tarps. But it was to kind of cover up the wares being sold there. But what was really powerful about this particular venue is the fans.
Oh, God,
And
yeah.
They were so energetic and so, I don't know how I want to say this, easy to manipulate.
Oh, yeah, we could get them.
No, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I'm saying this like, I was a heel, I mean, you've been a heel for a significant part of your career here, like that's a good crowd. Like if they feed off of you and you get responses like that, I mean, like that's what I mean.
They
like,
want to be involved.
They want to be involved, and they
involved.
were fantastic. And the crowd, we filled that place. I mean, then we had to move over to the green room, and then we filled that place too, and then we had to come here. So, it was a if you looked at it from face value, you'd be like, why are they in there? But the crowd made that place.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really did.
Yeah, I'm
It was
familiar-
like home.
I'm familiar with the Dundalk crowd, and they are easy to please. And like you said, it's not a bad thing. It's
No,
just
yeah,
that
I don't mean it
they-
negatively. I
they-
don't
yeah,
mean
they
it.
come
Right,
in.
right.
They come in. They want to see some wrestling,
And they want to be involved.
and they want to be involved. And where I came from, and then where we are now, it's they got what they asked for, and they always show up for that.
Yeah.
It's good to have fans like
Yeah.
that.
I love the green room. Like
Yeah.
I wish we still
didn't
ran.
I mean, I would
wish
never
we
sit on
still
the
ran
floor there, but like I
Yeah.
love the green, the
I
actual.
wish we still
green.
ran there.
Like you drop a drink, that's it.
I love the green room, but I didn't
I
like
don't
the
take my shoes off.
I didn't like the rules.
Yeah.
There were a whole bunch of new rules once we moved right over there. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember at one point, Dan had to actually pull me aside and be like, Larry, I know what you're thinking because incident had happened with me, like even getting in the building. I brought a friend of mine from New York to, see one of the shows.
Mm-hmm.
And like they wouldn't let me or him in. And I was going to bury the building. I was going to get on the microphone and be like, yeah, good luck with even getting in if you look like me. I was going to say something really controversial. And Dan was like, Larry, you cannot bury the building. You cannot. It's not the flea market. We don't have the run of the place, like,
Which is crazy because it was attached to the flea
right,
market.
yeah. So it was kind of like, it was hard
It
for me
kind
to
of still
grasp.
was the flea market. Yeah, and that was where you got the whole fire exits thing.
Indeed,
in the
yeah.
flea
So it's
market,
like I
yeah.
kind of felt like I had a little bit of clout and I should be able to get into the building, regardless if I got my friend or stepbrother or whoever with me. But yeah, I love that building too. I love both those buildings. I love all the canvases. Have you seen all the canvases we've gone through? If you go from MCW's infancy, like there was like the plain gray, and then for a while we had the yellow, and then we had the red.
So I love the yellow and the red. Like,
remember the red. I wasn't even here yet, and I remember
like
the
the
red.
red canvas in the ring. Like that was my favorite.
was our first
I
canvas here.
Loved the red.
In this
Yeah,
bit-
but
in the-
it was from we had it at the green room. The
Right,
red,
yeah.
with the yellow ropes.
Uh-huh.
I love that was my favorite.
So yeah, that's another reason to take a look at some of those matches from the vault, see how we've evolved into the MCW Pro that we are today.
That's right,
Right,
on MCWRaceTV.com. We didn't say that at
Thank
website
you.
last time, but
Thank you for that,
Yeah,
Deacon.
right, boom.
Indeed, yeah.
So there aren't as many archival matches on our Rage TV channel, and most of that is the quality that we're
yeah, of
talking
course.
VHS days. Okay,
It's really hard to
so
transfer.
it is
to
really
digital.
hard, and you know this, Brian,
I
because
do.
you've done some of them. The quality is not there, like. For whatever reason, it's okay on YouTube. We do have several of those matches on YouTube, and it's a little bit better. But the requirements for streaming and encoding the video quality is just not there. So we don't have as many on our Rage TV channel, but we have a lot of matches
They
on
exist.
YouTube.
They
They
exist.
do exist. They do.
Well, thank you, Tara, for correcting me.
So it's okay. There are some. It's
There are some,
it's-
just not
I
as.
put them in a tab called From the Vault. So if you're
There you go.
Yeah, that's
it's
what you were
perfect.
saying.
I do
Perfect.
legitimately. I
Right
did
on.
set that up, but I had envisioned we would have every month we'd put a new one there, and then I only envision these things. I don't do all the techie stuff. You know what I
Right.
mean?
That's
So
the
I
John
learned.
Rollins
I
work.
learned pretty early on that some of these things with the grainy lines going
Mm-hmm.
across, we cannot put on there. So but we tried. But they're on YouTube. A lot of them are.
So real quick, before we get out of this era of your existence, we had Greg Excellent as one of our guests not too long ago. And I brought up to Greg about the time that he found himself as a participant in CZW's most ultra-violent event every year called, aptly, the Tournament of Death. And I mentioned that, Greg, I would never have expected to see you in that style of a match, but I also would not expect to have seen your opponent, which was Ryan McBride, also doing a death match. So what was that like? How did that come about that you got that spot?
we were supposed to be just a regular card filler. That's all we were supposed to be on that show.
Non-tournament
And,
match.
Yeah, we're supposed to be a non-tournament card filling match. And then I guess a couple of people didn't show up. And I remember John walking up to me saying, because previous to this, I did an Ultraviolet Underground match, which I didn't know what I was getting involved in until I got to the building.
Now the Ultraviolet Underground matches, you did one that was like in a warehouse or something?
In a warehouse.
Oh,
so
wow.
I did one with DJ. It was barbed wire boards or something like that.
Oh.
And
Sounds awful.
yeah, completely awful. Like, props to those guys that can do that. Like, it is its own art form, but not for me. Not for me. Not for me. So did that one, and John comes up to me and he goes, yeah, we got you and Greg doing this, barbed wire boards, stuff like that, because you did that Ultraviolet Underground. You know how persuasive John is when he's saying you're going to do it or you're not on the show. Basically how it's going to go. So we went out and did it. And, like, I remember, you can see footage. I taped my forearms all the way up to my elbow, all the way up to my elbow pads. Like, I wore a shirt. Like, I never wear a shirt in the rings.
You're doing it today, yeah.
I put athletic shorts on over top of my tights because I didn't want to tear anything up.
Yeah.
And, like, we tried. It's probably one of the worst matches I've ever had because I wanted nothing to do with it.
I don't think he did either.
No.
And then he had to go on and compete even longer.
Yeah.
Little known fact, if you ever see that Tournament of Death, that's Tournament of Death 7, my first Tournament of Death. You're only...
That's my... So, like, I did a bunch of matches on Tournament of Death. I just did non-tournament matches after that.
Okay, right on. But there's a very young, green, fresh Adam Cole as a security CZW, person. I don't know what you even call him, staff member. And it's just wild to see that young, fresh-faced Adam Cole, being the security, and where he'd eventually go on to. So, just wanted to ask about that. I asked Greg, and he said a very similar tale as you, but it's just like, I guess what I'm getting at is like that moment when you're being asked by someone like John Zandig, like, oh, yeah, since you did that, you're going to do that tonight, and what are you going to say? I didn't sign up for that, or can I have more money? Like,
and like, I'm game to try anything. Like, I get it, but that's not going to be a permanent thing.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I remember that match being awesome, and one of the most awesome parts about it was you were not expecting to see Greg Excellent, the funny Jake the Snake of Chocolate Cake. Okay, you're not expecting to see him because he was a lot larger back in those days, fighting you in an ultraviolet death match. But yeah, that does exist.
Yeah, I wish it didn't.
All right, well, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll talk about some things, not just wrestling, but also what's on the horizon for you here in MCW, and we'll be right back.
Stay with us.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode, and you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
All right, now we're back with our guest, King McBride, King Ryan McBride. And Tara, as we were leaving, we were going to talk about some other things that you've done with your life, not just involved in wrestling. But before we leave that, I wanna mention one other thing that kind of you and I share, and that is when Sinclair Broadcast Group purchased Ring of Honor, and we know that Sinclair Broadcast Group is based out of Hunt Valley, Maryland. Everyone was saying to type like you and me and Adam Cole, all of the folks that were kind of bubbling in a couple different places, that you have got to get your name in the hat to be kind of like a local talent. And actually, that probably was the first thing that I did for ROH. Was I did the house show announcements when they were at Duburn's Arena. They wouldn't bring Bobby Cruz in for that. He was for TV and for pay-per-views. But you as well spent a little time, like, kind of getting processed through the Sinclair owns ROH. They're going to be doing these shows monthly. How'd you get linked up with them to begin with?
So when they started running those tryout seminars, I went to one. So they used to do those 2-day tryouts.
Yeah.
And it happened to fall on a CZW weekend. Though it was actually the weekend that I worked AR Fox. And I remember, I remember that. So it was a Saturday and a Sunday. Stayed in the hotel, went back Sunday. In-ring stuff was great. Like, my promo skills are trash. Like, I'm not even gonna hide it. Like, I'm not a good talker. That's why I got Andy. So
right on, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
or Justin.
Like I know I'm not gonna try to push something I'm not good at. So you gotta find ways to make it all work. So I started doing some promos and sending them to Kevin Kelly. Like, I would just go to random spots and have somebody film me, and these would be 1.5, 2-minute long promos, and he would give me legit feedback. So I thought that was a way in. So then I started going to shows and just setting up, tearing down, paying dues. The old school way to get in.
Yep.
And it was like 4 or 5 shows, and I'm like, there's nothing here. Like, getting there early. Like, everybody else is leaving. I'm one of the last ones staying with their street team to make sure they're good to go, and not leaving them hanging. Went to a couple shows up in New York. I had that TV match, TV squash with Davey Richards.
I remember that. That was like
which is really funny when because Davey went out first, or no, I'm sorry, I went out. And I got a huge pop because they knew who I was when they saw me from the people there. And I remember, Davey saying to me, "Wow, you're over." I remember saying it to me. Yeah. And so that was there. Like, I sold my ass off for his ankle lock, just doing whatever I could to keep my name in the hat. And then eventually, like, I got into this for the fun of it.
Right.
I didn't, like, there was no, like, the more I got involved, thinking of going to WWE was there. But once, it just felt too much like real work, and the fun of it started getting sucked out.
I can 100% empathize with that statement.
I think everybody at this table could.
Yeah.
And, like, everything just kind of started feeling stale to me at that point. And the greatest thing happened to me. So the second time that I got the MCW belt, this is around the time still doing some Ring of Honor stuff, missed a crossbody off the second rope. Left knee hits the mat. And I knew something was wrong because I couldn't put a lot of weight on it. Like, I muscled through the rest of the night. The following weekend, ROH was doing TVs in Pittsburgh. So we go up there, and in one of the mains for one of the shows, Priest Coleman and Cedric Alexander are doing a dive onto a bunch of people. And they're diving crisscross like this. And you would think, there was 8 of us on the floor. You would think, like, smart people catching him are going that way, people catching him are going that way. Like a bunch of dumbasses, we all fell into each other.
Oh.
So I had about 800 pounds hitting my left knee. And my left knee went behind my right knee. And I heard the pop of my knee exploding over top of the crowd.
Oh.
And, like, I was laying there, and, like, the production people are around saying, "You got to go." Like, everybody else has made their way to the back. They're getting ready to hit the final spot for the finish. And, like, I'm crawling around the guardrail because I couldn't walk.
And
Riding back in the car that night with my legs straight. It was
So did you think at that moment like your wrestling career was over?
Like, I knew I was hurt really, really
Right.
bad, but being stubborn and knowing if I took time off, I'm losing my spot.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I just kept going through. And I remember working hydraulics a week later at ACW, and he gave me a suplex, and my feet hit the mat just routine.
Yeah.
Couldn't walk the rest of the match. Like, you can see me physically limping through the whole thing.
Oh my god.
And I kept going. That was October of 2012, and then went to the doctor a few times, and then eventually had to stop.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was done. The doctor told me, he was like, if you get hurt any worse, you're gonna need a knee replacement. What my actual injury was, so my meniscus exploded. Like in the MRI, you can't even you just see fragments of it everywhere. Grade 3 PCL and ACL tear, and then my MCL was sprained. So literally side to side, and like
Front to back.
nothing. Just kind of stopped, dropped the belt to Christian York in February. End up getting married.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of things happened. Went back in June and had my knee had it looked at again, and the tears had kind of healed themselves a little bit. They went from a grade 3 to a grade 2. So surgery, like full ACL, PCL repair, wasn't on the table anymore. So I ended up just having my knee cleaned out. And I remember going back. So I came to the first show at Joppa. And that was when Cody Hall and Scott Hall were here.
Oh yeah.
And I remember,
Yeah.
and I remember standing by when the before the wall was there. I remember standing there watching the whole show, and I'm like, I felt it.
Yeah.
Felt it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta go. And then I wound up. It was on Thanksgiving week. Went to the doctor. I went through the whole tests. He was like, you're good to go. And he said, you need anything from me? I said, can I wrestle again? And he said, I don't advise it, but I can't tell you what to do.
I don't think there's any doctor who's going to advise their patient to wrestle, whether they're injured or not.
And like, I almost got dropped from my insurance because that's what I put was the reason why my knee got hurt. I didn't think ahead to.
Yeah, you were being
say
honest.
something else.
You know?
Yeah.
So I remember I asked Dan. I said, will you have me back? And it was after the show was over with. And he said, yeah, of course. I said, I know I told you to tell me no if I asked you. I was like, but I said, I need to come back. And then I said, I've been a babyface this whole time. I said, I want to try the other side and see how it works. And blowing my knee out the way it happened, best thing to ever happen to me. Because if over these past, let's see, what are we going, 8 years now? If I knew in these past 8 years, then whole different story.
Right.
We might be having a different conversation. Like, it's amazing how you can manipulate a crowd.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
And I want to make sure that we're clear. Like, I don't mean manipulate in a bad way.
Yeah.
For a heel, that's what you
Yeah.
want. For them, I mean, there's nothing worse than them not responding. So yeah, like when I speak fondly of the people I've manipulated over the years. You know, like it's a compliment.
Being a babyface was fun.
Yeah.
Because like I felt like we really didn't have to try very hard. Like they organically made us what we were. Being a heel, you gotta drop, like you just gotta in their face all the time.
It's the best though,
Yeah,
isn't
and it's
it?
like
It really is.
It really
so
is.
good. It's
so
the
like
best.
I started thinking of things, and like I didn't know. So the heel turn happened at December shows, December 27th, 2013. It was against C-Fed and Christian York were having their I Quit match.
Yep.
And there was nobody better for me to turn on because it was like when I went away, Chris jumped right in my spot. So there was nobody better to turn on. And when it happened, like the chills I had standing in the middle of the ring, standing over him after I drop kicked him in the back, it's like, we're going to have fun with this. And then it just, we got Justin involved. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought,
That felt like such an organic, like, you know, people just, you were building this stable, you know, and the whole King persona really started to take shape. And, you know, it was a whole, it was interesting to me because it was, your little faction was made up of people who didn't wrestle, really. I mean, like, you know, you could throw Andy in there for something or Justin in there, but like, that's what really just made it so magical almost was that, you know, there were just this whole package.
A lot of
you know?
cronies. A lot of cronies.
You know, and Justin, you never knew what he was going to do next. I mean, or where. Or,
Justin is such a good sport. So
Yes.
like I knew him and Chris had did some stuff in the past. So when me and Chris really started getting steam behind us, I started just tagging Justin on Twitter.
Mhm.
And then eventually he shot me a message and was like, "Hey, do we want to do something here?" So then we exchanged phone numbers, and then eventually we did the radio spot
yeah.
before Body Slam Autism, and then he came with us when Chris had to take some time away, and he was down for anything.
He was
Like, no
great.
matter what random idea I threw, he was like, I'm game. Let's do it. I'm
Yeah.
good. Let's do it.
Yes.
Oh, you want me to wear my, tights out there in the ring with my pale pasty body and a scarf? You got it.
Like, the best was when he was cutting a promo with that eye patch on, and then it slipped and went on the other eye, and he moved it back while it was going on.
Dude, one of my favorite moments still to this day is I was still working the camera, the hard camera up in the nest, and was when he came back and he's like, you guys are looking at each other, and he slips the neck brace on and he puts the eye patch on, and I was up there crying because it was so funny, but it was amazing. It's like one of my favorite MCW moments was when that happened.
I would have to get him to tell me his promos in the back before he said them, because like I'm glad I wear sunglasses in the ring, because he's been able to break me a couple times, but the first time he got me, we were in Hollywood, and he said the line. He was like, "We're in Hollywood, Maryland, where the homes are mobile and the cars aren't." I had to turn around and get completely away from him.
Oh my God.
Oh wow, he's a
Yes.
character. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've known Justin for like 20 plus years because he was our intern when we did the radio show. So
Wrestle Talk America?
No, Pro Wrestling Weekly. So it was after Wrestle Talk America ended, and it was me and Al Albert and Ron Young, and we did Pro Wrestling Weekly for like a year and a half. And yeah, he was our we called him Jit at the time, but he was like our little lackey in training. So,
Wow.
yeah, so it was
Plays the
really
role well.
like I would have never 20 years ago, if you'd asked me like to see Justin up there in that role, I'd have never said that was what I envisioned for him. Like I never, but he had that great personality and that, easygoing and willing to try anything. So it's been fun.
It was just fun, like trying to be different than everything else on
Yeah.
the show. Like, I didn't want to be like the whole group. We weren't doing nothing that resembled any other part of that show.
Right.
Like, we're gonna have our own little corner. Like, that's our part of the stew.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Where we're at.
Right. Right.
But it went like we wound up making it work.
You did. You absolutely did. That was very entertaining. It has been very entertaining to watch, and I'm sure, our fans have enjoyed that journey as well. But boy, do they hate you. They're really not fans of you. Like I say enjoy, but I mean they enjoy hating you. Like really.
There's a guy in the crowd that stops at Burger King and buys a bunch of those crowns to hand out to people. Like, he will message me on Facebook and show, "Hey, I got all these crowns, giving them out to people." Like, okay, more power to you, buddy.
Yeah, right.
like
Awesome,
have fun. But like, if you would have told me that when I started
Right.
training, I'd have been like, "You're full of That's not gonna happen."
Yeah. Exactly. But that's how you know that you've made a connection with
Yeah.
your audience. And that's one thing that you've been able to do, whether it's as a heel or a babyface. You are able to connect and either make people love you or hate you. And that's the beauty of it.
Like my best days are probably behind me. 'Cause I'll be 37 this year. So, I'm getting further and further away, but I'm going to try to do this as long as I can.
Yeah.
Like I got a 4-year-old. He's been a one time. He's seen clips of it.
Mhm.
Like so he came to the really, really nice high school. Manchester Valley. Manchester Valley.
Yeah.
So he came and he was sitting in the second row.
Mhm.
And by the end of the night, like, I didn't tell him what it was. Like, I brought him back so he could see everybody.
Mhm.
And I remember my wife telling me he would be trying to do the W the whole time. So, like, I would play to where he was at,
Mhm.
and he would be looking at his fingers trying to get it all together. And I would
Aw.
see this, and
That's
like,
so
that's
cute.
the, like, I still want to do it because I want him to see what Dad was all about and
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's so many pictures that Craig Hunter Ross captured of my kids looking at Bruiser with that just look of love and adoration, and he would always try to capture that experience for them, and I'm very grateful for that. But I know exactly what you mean. Like it's that
Yes.
yeah, like
There is no
dad
better,
is the role model.
yes,
You know,
there
dad
is
is his
no
hero.
No
Yeah.
better feeling in the world.
Right.
No better.
Right.
And that's honestly how I feel, because a lot of you don't realize this, but he goes to the ring. One of the first things he does, he's smiling because he knows what I'm going to say.
I know exactly.
One of the first things he does, he goes right on top like this. People don't realize he's doing that straight to me,
Yes, I
because
am.
that's what we do, baby.
Yeah, that is what we
AF.
do.
Royal AF.
You will never not post something on Facebook.
Oh.
I will be in that comment section
all day long, and I
know it.
welcome
I will
it.
be there.
All day long, yes.
That's right. Ryan took my side there with something you recently
I mean,
posted.
you know what? He had
Thank
every
you for
right
that,
to.
by the way.
He had every right to, because I messed up.
You sure
I'm
did.
willing to accept my
How?
mistakes.
Mhm. You sure did.
Now that I'm sitting here in front of you, how?
I don't know what I was thinking.
How do you forget Tara?
I know, and I should have left
I'm
him off.
speaking in all
'cause you
caps.
gave me- we're talking about the thing we're talking, the announcer, the tagging thing.
Oh,
How I tagged you and didn't tag her, yeah.
I'm an
I
expert at
know.
that.
Yeah.
I make sure
Fine.
people who don't want to be tagged are tagged.
Yeah.
You know?
It's fine. I
No,
see where I rate. It's fine. At
Hey,
least Ryan
like
had my back.
like
Thanks.
at least fourth. At least fourth.
So, what are some other things like that you're doing? I know you have done some powerlifting.
Mhm.
Is that
Mhm.
something that you're
So-
working toward again?
So like, wrestling and powerlifting and weightlifting. Like I don't lift for the aesthetics. Like I'm not the best looking person
Mhm.
out there. I'm never gonna try to be. It's just not my thing. But lifting and wrestling are what I call my mental health hobbies. So
That's a
like,
good way to
Always
put
good
it.
to have 'em,
with
yeah.
with wrestling, like I get to be a different person
Mhm.
and just make people feel good.
Mhm.
Whether they're booing me or not,
Right.
they feel better leaving the building. At least I hope. And then same thing with lifting. Hard day at work, just tough day in general.
Mhm.
I go down,
Lift heavy.
put some
things.
time in,
Yeah.
and so like, I used to do the typical bodybuilding splits, working body parts one a day, and it
Right.
just didn't do anything. So then I saw Bobby Shields doing some competitions,
Mhm.
and so I started asking him questions, and then I eventually started trying it. He talked me into doing my first powerlifting meet. I think it was April 2015, and I ended up deadlifting 500 pounds, benching 260, squatting 375.
Wow.
And
And
then
for someone with that kind of a knee injury, squatting 375 is 375? That's
Three-
amazing.
So my doctor told me that as long as my feet are planted on the floor,
Mhm.
as long like and my quads and hamstrings are strong,
Right.
totally fine. It's the open chain stuff, leg
Yeah.
extension, knee
Yeah,
curl,
Oh yeah, yeah.
those kind of
Right,
things that
okay.
you don't want to do. As long as your feet are planted, you're good. But like I've been over the course of the pandemic, squatted PR 460,
Wow.
bench 295, so close to 300 pounds, so close, and deadlifted 600 pounds. So
That's
Wow,
impressive.
that is
So are there
so
more
very impressive.
competitions in the horizon for you?
I've got like a nagging injury where, like, when I get to the midway point of the deadlift, it feels like my glute and hamstring are like separating, and it's like
Hmm.
it's very very painful. So I'm trying to
Mhm.
like work around it, but like I want to do another one.
Okay.
Like I'll probably be sitting at 190, 194ish at the show.
Mhm.
Like I would like to bulk all the way to 220
Wow.
and compete at like a
Whoa.
much and compete at a much heavier weight class. But
Jeez.
I had to get myself presentable. I waited too late to start trying to get at least presentable. Not the prettiest thing on the show. Like I won't have my best package out there Saturday, but
Wow. All right. Well, that's a interesting, hobby and thing that you've been vocal about and you've shared on social media. What
Mhm.
what other things what does Ryan McBride do when he's not being the king?
my 4-year-old son, he is the man. The man. Like I wanted to be a dad so bad and for so long.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you all the greatest thing in the world, coming home from work and seeing that smiling face waiting for me coming in the door, greatest thing ever. So like when I picked him up from daycare this past Friday, his day. So you go up, knock on the door. You can't go in anymore because of COVID.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So I hear the babysitter say, "Gavin, it's your dad," and he is running from the playroom. I love my daddy.
Oh,
And it is the,
Oh man.
it is the best thing in the world.
That's so
like,
cute.
It, like I plan my whole day to where I spend the most time with him.
Mm-hmm.
So like, he goes to bed, that's when I'll start doing stuff. Like I'll
Right.
wake up early in the morning to do it. Like I try to make sure I spend as much time with him as humanly possible.
Oh, that's great.
It's my favorite person on planet Earth.
We can
Alright.
tell. I see the pictures,
Yeah.
man. I can
Yeah,
see
it's
the
funny.
pictures.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think of your dad a lot. Being at a lot of the shows and supporting you, and a lot of the times me coming up and shaking your dad's hand and just saying like, "Look at our boy here." He's doing it," So to start with you saying, you and your dad at Memorial Stadium, and you telling him, "Hey, take me to see WWF at the Baltimore Civic Center," and now, the relationship that you and Gavin have. Who knows what the future holds? You never know.
If he wants to, by all means. If he wants to, and this is still around,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, because I know he'll be in good hands here.
All right, well, I'm sure the RKW kids will make a spot. Okay?
That's the future
Like,
right there.
They just recruit any kid that walks in the door. Like, I've seen them at the birthday parties. Like, the birthday party kids will wander over and be like, "Oh, what are those kids over there doing?" And,
So it's funny you mentioned RKW. So last night he's on the ottoman in front of me, and I'm sitting on the couch, and he runs at me and just jumps at me. And I said, "No, buddy, if we're gonna do this, we gotta do it the right way."
Right.
So then I told him which way to feed,
Right.
Uh-huh.
so that way I could catch him the right way. And he's looking at me like I got 7 heads, and I'm like, "Buddy, you'll understand."
It will all make sense one day.
Grooming you now for what's coming.
100%.
For
Yeah.
what's coming.
Oh, well, that's great. All right, so we have one more break to do, and when we come back, we got a few questions from our Coffee Club members, and we'll talk about some things going on in the world of professional wrestling. So stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, everybody, we are back. I am Deacon Storm here with Larry Legend, Tara, and our guest, King Ryan McBride. So we got some coffee club questions, Tara.
We
I think
do.
you have them on the list over there.
You sure you don't want to bow down a little bit more?
Okay,
Are we
give me 1 more
waiting
second.
for the
Yeah,
king to
just-
toss out some gold coins to you? Because the last time you introduced us all, you
Well,
really gave a lot of attention there.
Well,
to
usually when I bow
the
to him, he
king.
throws bronze at me, which I kind of deserve that. So he keeps the gold for himself.
Still can't believe you forgot Tara.
Thank
Selfish.
you. Thank
Hey,
you.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I'll just forget you.
That's right. You'll be asking.
Yeah.
How
Exactly.
you gonna
React,
that's your-
damn.
I could. I mean,
Yeah, that's your just desserts. Get to the questions.
I
Tara.
agree. Yes. All right. So, one of our fans wanted to know, what is your favorite match? Now, they didn't specify MCW, but I'm going to assume that they mean here in MCW. But if you want to answer that outside of MCW, that's fine too. So, favorite match?
Every time I was in the ring with Bruiser.
I suspected you were going to say
No,
that.
like there's no. That man is larger than life to me. And being able to, I'm gonna try to get this out. Being able to have that program with him, best thing ever.
He loved working with you. That
And-
match at the
base-
Regency
At the baseball
Furniture.
stadium. So we are, and he's gonna strike me with lightning for seconds. So we had called what we called,
Mhm.
and we had worked together so much that it was like, hey, you can do this here, do this here. So we get into the heat, and he was like, okay, we're going longer. So then we called about 10 minutes worth of stuff in the middle, of the match, and then we went back to where we were,
Yeah.
and it was just.
Wasn't it like 10 minutes into the match before you took your first bump? I mean,
Oh,
like
yeah.
it was.
Oh yeah.
I watched it because Al Albert and I that was one of our shows that we like co-ring announced. And I remember watching that and I was just like, what? Like, they haven't even bumped yet. Like, I don't even know. They're not even in the ring.
So
I mean,
Ron Simmons was on that show,
Yes.
and he was sitting back. So that's when I rode that gator all the way down
that's
to
right,
the
the
ring.
golf cart
the
thing
golf
or whatever.
cart and
Yeah.
back.
I remember
And I
that.
remember win the match, stare down with Draws because we were getting ready to go into our thing. And I'm go to the back and I hop off the drive-through and I hop off the gate. I remember Ron Simmons looking, going, damn, that's how it's done. And like, you can't get any bigger of a compliment than that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, no.
And that
WWE
match was
Hall of
like
Famer.
the epitome of work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
You know, because it wasn't that you did 50 million spots. Like you didn't. Like you
Yeah.
did the exact opposite, in fact. But the crowd ate that up. I mean, you had them in the palm of your hands from the minute that cart left the dugout and the minute you drove that cart back in. So yeah, that was one of his favorites too.
I wish when I remember all of us, we were standing in the building. It was me, Drolix, RJ. We're all standing in a circle. And we were just talking about, like, people that are in our top 5. And I remember he looked at both of us and was like, I only got 3. And 2 of them are standing in front of me. And I remember, like, you got to be tough in front of him. You can't show him your soft side. He's going to eat you alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going up, I was like, oh, my God. I looked up to this guy. I just wanted to be in the ring. And holy
Yeah.
So,
It's real.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it meant as much to him as it did to you. So definitely that was one thing. We had to talk about something on the road trips, like, because God knows we weren't talking about my driving. So,
All right.
so that was, but yeah, he definitely put that over. He enjoyed that. That was one that we drove to together. Were fun times, but. All right, so I suspected you were going to say that. So to the fan who asked that, thank you. Hope that answered your question. Another one wanted to know anyone that you haven't worked that you would like to. So you said you thought you were nearing the end or
His best days are behind.
the best days are
Yeah,
behind you, but that doesn't mean
he's going to do it as long as he can.
right.
Yeah.
let's see. Moxley,
Mm.
Okay. All right.
Eddie Kingston.
There's another good one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would like current day Adam Cole.
Mhm.
I mean, I have a lot of history with Adam Cole in general,
Right.
but I would like current day Adam Cole.
Okay.
I'm sure more will come to my head.
I
but
mean,
that's-
those are
Yeah.
I was
three.
just saying,
Yeah, those
nobody's
are three
arguing
right
with
there.
those.
Yeah.
Nobody's arguing with those. Great. So the other another question was, are there any rising stars that you see as the future of wrestling? I know earlier at the beginning of the podcast you were you're not watching a lot of the product necessarily that's out there, but are there any of like rising stars that maybe have caught your eye?
I don't watch enough to know. Like, obviously Keith Lee's going to be somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I think he just came back
Yeah, he
last
just
night.
came back. Yeah.
Obviously guys like Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly,
Yeah.
anybody in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any like standouts? Like, have you watched AEW at all, or any?
They haven't caught my attention enough that I
Right.
can remember their name. It probably sounds terrible.
No,
but, like,
no. I mean that's. It's.
I'm not
going
gonna
to
sit here. I'm not gonna sit here and just blow names out for
Yeah.
the hell of it.
Appreciate
it's not
that.
me.
Yeah, it's not genuine.
It's not
so
me.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, speaking of names, another question was, how did you come up with the name McBride?
Oh yeah.
All right, so this is a good one. So, I didn't want to use the name Dangerous because the more I thought about it, it sounded
Obvious
That's very dated.
Obvious
it
reasons.
sounded cheesy too, and like had I thought the way I do now.
Did you also come
Probably
out to a
went-
song by Disturbed? Or
Oh, come on.
I actually, so when we were doing the BCW thing, I came out to a lot of Metallica.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's a
I
winner
love
right
Metallica.
there.
So okay, so this is the era. I mean, this is
Red and black
Yeah.
too, right? Red and black gear.
Yes,
Of course.
Adidas
Exactly.
shorts.
Mhm.
There it is.
The red and black kick pads. With
Oh,
some
yeah.
wrestling
Oh
shoes.
man, the
Yeah, oh, yeah.
2000s.
exactly.
Oh, the
It's
2000s.
hardcore.
All right, so you made the very wise decision
Yeah.
to drop the dangerous part from your name.
So, country music fan,
Mhm.
and I love Martina McBride, and I just happened to
Oh.
be
How about that?
going. I went to her concert for the first time, and I just kind of started saying it to myself, like, Ryan McBride. Said it to a couple people, bounced it off, and then it just kind of stuck.
Wow. All right, I did not see that coming.
I didn't either.
You guys didn't know that?
I did
Absolutely
not.
not.
Yeah,
I-
that was one of the best questions asked,
I
actually.
did not know that.
Huh.
And you
So-
got the McBride tattoo. Of course, that is in relation to your
Yep, to wrestling.
surname.
That's
Okay,
in case he
to
ever
wrestling.
forgets his name.
I mean,
Yeah. I think it was the combination of the name and
I've had enough concussions to where it's possible.
I
reoccurring
understand.
theme with a lot of our guests
It
on this
is,
show.
yeah, it is.
But I think it was the
is.
combination of the name and the Dropkick Murphys theme that
Yes.
really kind of you
And
know.
that theme came from The Departed. That's where I first heard it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of my top 5 favorite movies.
Yep. I've
Scorsese.
seen Dropkick Murphys
Wow.
before. Yeah.
It
Very
all comes together.
Very energetic band. Yeah.
Indeed, yeah.
And one last name question: how did you come up with the King Gimmick? So the whole King McBride. Like, when did you turn from Ryan McBride to the King, and what was the kind of process there?
To be honest, it just kind of flowed. Like I remember, so it was just me, Justin, and Ken. And he's like, what are we going to call ourselves? He's like, we're going to call ourselves the Kings. Because I think I had said something like that. This is my territory, my house, all that. So we just kind of started running with the Kings. All the crown and the robe and everything else. I was like, well, if we're going to go that far,
So
then
that
we
was-
just got to.
Yeah.
There was no real thought. I'm like, if we're just going to go the cheesy route with this, we got to go all the way. all
There
in.
was like the baton. So that was like
Oh,
our
yeah.
prop box we used at the birthday parties.
That's
that
the-
little tiny velvet cape.
well,
I
no,
mean,
that-
like
that's
these-
Justin's.
Oh my god,
That's his deal.
Okay, so we had a cape too in there, and
Mhm.
there was a hat. There was a, I think my kid brought one in to put into the birthday box. But you know, you have like this box of clothes and gimmicks
The old
and
gimmick
whatever,
box.
and there was a baton, and you know, and then
they-
it just kind of morphed from there.
You know,
but
we graduated from the robe to an obnoxious fur coat. Like I remember there was one here, and I grabbed him like I'm wearing this out there.
Yeah.
Like,
because you never know what you're gonna find in that box.
and
I'll
now,
be
and now
pimped.
I have, and the best part is like this stuff is super cheap, and I know they can tell this guy thinks he's great, but he's got this cheap ass stuff on.
That's where the
And, like,
humor,
the,
you know.
the black jacket that I wear now,
Uh-huh.
like I have to literally stand up and put it on like this because there's no movement in the elbow. Like none. Like my wife tells me all the time, she's like, "You're so ridiculous." She's like, "Why do you do this?" I'm like,
I love it.
Now, is your wife a wrestling fan? I know she comes to the,
No,
she's
she
come to
hates
the
it.
shows. I've
She hates it.
seen her. I've
Sure,
met
yeah.
her.
she has it. So she used to come all the time, and then eventually she stopped selling for me. She completely stopped selling for me. So she would time it like she would always ask me, "Where are you at on the show? Where are you at on the show?" And like when I would tell her, so if I was Maine, she would leave the house at intermission. I'd be walking down the ramp, and I'd see her coming through the doors.
Wow.
Perfect
And
timing.
she would stand there, watch the show, and
Uh-huh.
as I'm like popping the crowd or whatever's happening, I would see her leaving.
right?
Gotta be the
She's
crowd
like,
home.
all right, I came, I drove an hour to see you. I'm going back home.
Oh my
You
gosh.
Like-
saw me, I saw you. We'll talk
But
about
she didn't
it.
stay for the end? Like, she just.
No, hell no. She like once my segment was done, she's gone.
That's
She
kind of like
gone.
how my mom was, you
And,
know.
like-
But the thing is, I'm in
That's
the whole
funny.
show, so you know,
Yeah.
you're always gonna see me doing my thing. But yeah, that's
That's what my mom never came to see me wrestle. She only came. She started coming. She saw me ring announce in Frederick. Actually, was her first show. Now she's seen a bunch more of them. But
Yeah.
yeah, she would never come watch me wrestle. She was like, I just don't want to, and she never
Yeah.
did.
And like I know, like it's not her thing, and I know she
Yeah.
supports me because she busts my balls. She was like, "You're too old to be doing this stuff like nowadays," but like I'm glad that she doesn't need to be here all the time.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's like she knows it's kind of my time just to kind of
Yeah.
be with the guys and do whatever.
Sure.
And like she has her time. And all
There are
that.
certainly worse things you could be doing.
Yes,
Certainly.
absolutely.
You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? So if you want to go and, you know, wrestle around in, you know, glorified underwear and a cape or whatever and a crown or
Mhm.
whatever, you know what I mean? Then that is definitely not the worst thing that you
She
could be
she
doing.
hates every time. Like, see, I've broken my nose going on what 6-7 times now.
Ooh.
And I remember the last time was when Justin came back actually, and Brandon caught me for his cutter,
Mhm.
and my nose ate his collarbone. I didn't get my head
Oh.
turned in time. So like I'm sitting there and blood. And this is a really funny story. Really, it's a Jason Tano story. And it really makes me laugh. So I can tell. So I'm bleeding, and I knew I was like, because I was wearing them white gloves,
Oh.
so it was all over the gloves.
Yeah.
And like I'm going like this, seeing how far my nose was, and like I really wanted to put my nose back in place.
Yeah.
Because every time I broke it, I just grabbed it, yanked it back in. But I'm like, no, it's not a heel thing to do. They'll probably start cheering me for putting it back in place like that. So I'm getting up, and Jason literally leans down and goes, "Ryan, you're bleeding." I stopped. I broke character, and I looked at him. I said, "No, Jason."
And write that one down.
right.
So
Wow.
I get in the back after that, and she, like I always told her, like, I'm safe, one piece.
Right.
Here's the exception. I text her my nose after Karen got me all fixed up, and she was like, "You're going to the hospital now." So of course, like, my nose broke all the way up here by the top.
Oh God.
So it looked way worse than it was. So I get to the hospital, and I'm there, like, after being here all day, like, I'm last place I want to be.
Of course.
Because I know what they're gonna tell me.
Right.
Like, possibly a mild concussion with whatever happened. So I remember the triage nurse going, "Why did you come here?" Says, I get it, but it's such a mild break.
Yeah.
It's gonna be gone in a week.
Oh.
And I got home and, like, I just went to sleep, and I woke up, and she was heated at me for it.
Sure.
And I'm like, "Babe, it's gonna be gone in a week." She was like, "You're gonna get really hurt one of these times." I said, "I know what I signed up for."
Right.
Like,
right.
I know it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's great that she's still supportive, even if, she's not
I'm
there.
gonna try to get her to come out and bring
She's
Gavin
not
some more.
Your
So.
biggest
Please do.
cheerleader. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that was all of our Coffee Club questions. Remember, if you too want to ask our guests each week, you can become a Coffee Club member and give us that monthly support. We really do appreciate it. And you get inside access to ask each and every one of our guests. I send out an email with our show schedule and let you know who's coming. So be sure to go to Buy Me a Coffee at MCW Cast and sign up for that. We really appreciate the support.
And if you're not a Coffee Club member, you can still just jump on plain old Jane old Twitter and use the hashtag AskMCWCast. It's on the lower third of the entire MCW cast. We have it right down there. Hashtag AskMCWCast. I remember a few episodes months ago, we used to get a few fans that just participated in that, but I haven't heard from anybody. So please, MCW faithful,
Start talking.
whatever you have to ask under the sun, even if it's a little inappropriate, ask MCW Cast. We like for a good
We'll
laugh
clean it
every
up.
once in a while.
We'll
Yeah.
clean it up.
Now that we're returning to, shows again, coming off of the recent show back, and then, we've got a full schedule coming up for all of our fans. And remember, if you want to buy tickets to any of our upcoming shows, we've got a full fall schedule coming up, and you can do that at Hideaway Collectibles, our authorized ticket outlet right there on Holabird Avenue in Dundalk, just down the street from Jimmy's Famous Seafood. Not only can you get tickets to all of our upcoming MCW shows, but that is the #1 place to pick up your collectibles and Funko Pops, autographed memorabilia, and what have you.
And while you're down there, get a Bruiser Burger, right?
I say that every time.
I know, and you missed it, so hey.
Actually, what
vindicated.
you did right there was you read my mind, because if you would have given me a piece of breathing room, I would have jumped in there and said, "Go get yourself a Bruiser Burger."
But you know what? I actually intentionally didn't say it, because what I was going to say was that you also could stop and pick up some of Jimmy's famous meals, which I know, Ryan, you have been a consumer of and have probably fueled your, bodybuilding journey.
So Gavin is 4 years old. I started using them when he was 3 months old.
Wow.
And I've missed a handful of weeks here and there, but it is delicious, affordable. The only thing I have to do, like, it gets delivered to my house every Monday.
Yeah.
I order on Friday, it comes to my house on Monday, and I wouldn't use anybody else.
Yeah,
Nice.
If you're not familiar, Jimmy's Famous Meals, they've got their own website, ordering. There's all kinds of different things. If you're on a special diet, if you need higher protein, if you're on keto, if you've got lots of different things, they've really expanded it, and the food is amazing.
Literally.
It is so good. So that is why I did not say go get a Bruiser Burger, but also go get that too. But grab some meals to go. So, you can pick them up in their store, or you can order them online. And like you said, they are delivered to a certain area. And yeah. All right.
Hell of a commercial there. Well, I mean, what do we have to talk about? Anything else? Should we kind of take it on home here, Brian?
I think this is it.
Yeah.
I think Deacon Storm saying take it home.
Yeah, I think so too. Tara, do you want to close this out? I don't think you've ever closed this out.
I did. I just did all that.
Okay, fine. I'll do it.
You got it.
I'm done.
Episode 28, the MCW Cast is in the can. We want to give a huge shout out and thank you to our guest, King Ryan McBride, for Deacon Storm, the lovely Tara. I'm Larry Legend. We'll see you here next Tuesday at 8 for another edition of the MCW Cast.
Make me